No Time to Die is the 25th film in the Bond franchise. Obviously, this franchise has been going a long time. It does have the long legs for standing in that amount of time, though. Obviously, we've long gone from the days of Sean Connery, and we are now in the days of Daniel Craig, or should I say, the end of days. What this signifies as a Bond film is what I liked the fact about these past five films, including this one, is that they carry their own narrative. These films have a story that they go by. A lot of the times, it might seem a bit like the trilogy sequel series to Star Wars, where some of it feels like it was kind of running and gunning with what they were doing, but they if that was the case and this wasn't pre-planned, which I don't think it was, it shows how it's done a lot better. Obviously, the overarching idea of Spectre being the kind of main villain in the shadows, it works well for Bond, and obviously that incorporates into the new film, and as well as it being not the main focus of it. Obviously, this film feels very more Bond focused, I'd say. In the previous ones with Daniel Craig, you get M obviously going through Emma's Judy Dench when she's discussing the fact that Bond is basically a blunt instrument. He is a weapon to be wielded, and that is Bond. There's not much more to him. Apparently, he's just brutal and he gets the job done with his license to kill. Is there more to him than that? And I think that's one thing that Daniel Craig has brought to the role brilliantly, because you can see it in every pore, in every kind of point that we see him kind of react and just convey to this world that he's in. Of, is Bond a person? What? Who is Bond? Who is James Bond? Is he just a blunt weapon with no emotion and a license to kill to take out the bad guys, or is he an actual human being in this world? Because obviously in the past five films that has been his role. He is basically pointed at like Le Chiffre or De Silva. He's pointed at them and told to take them out, and that's pretty much it. The one obviously tying emotional factor to that was Vesper Lind in Casino Royale, when he believed she betrayed him. That kind of cut out his heart. And then we see obviously that growth from that point, and then we get the relationship with M as kind of a maternal figure in Skyfall, and then her death, how that affects him as well. It's strange how this Bond has an actual character development compared to the previous films, where, say, with Pierce Brosnan, it would be a very different Bond to from GoldenEye to Tomorrow Never Dies. It was just the fact that they just move on, and it would be a new chapter in Bond's story. But that's the one thing I would say about the past five films, is that they all kind of tie together and give one whole narrative. That doesn't obviously mean that they're all brilliant films. I will say they're a mixed bag, Daniel Craig's films, but that's in a good way as well, as Skyfall and Casino Royale are some of my favourite Bond films. They just are. While Spectre and see, I forgot the name of it, Quantum of Solace are probably the below the barrel Bond films, I wouldn't say. I don't think Spectre's as bad as Quantum of Solace, but I don't really remember Spectre enough to kind of quote on that. I remember it had Blofeld, and that's obviously one of the things that had Madeline Swan as well, who is now in this film. And one thing I will note is Spectre, I'd say, is definitely a prequel to this film. I know it came before. It makes me sound a bit silly there, but it's definitely something that needs to be watched again going into this new one. As I will be honest, I don't remember too much about it, and I remember there being plot points that are brought up. And obviously, the character of Madeline Swan is very important to this film. Her relationship with Mr. White, who's from obviously the previous films as well. It all ties together, and I really like that about Craig's kind of role and run as Bond, is the fact that his story has a developing progression, essentially. We see a story from start to finish over these five films. No Time to Die is a film that I think thinly walks that line between good and bad. There are parts of the film that I really enjoy. I really do like about this film. The soundtrack by Hans Zimmer, that's brilliant. Some of the characters in it, obviously Craig, I still think is brilliant in the role. Obviously he's aged quite a bit since Casino Royale came out, but I think that he's gradually aged with the character. And obviously in this one, Bond's retired, and I won't go too much into details to spoil that, but there is a big time gap between the previous film of the Spectre and this one, and they kind of make you aware of that. I think Rami Malek as, I don't know if he's Dr. No. I'm not sure if that's a spoiler or not. I read that somewhere after, so it's not kind of on your nose about the fact that he's Dr. No. If it is the case, I'm not 100% sure still. That kind of shows it. Is it a good Bond film? Yes. I don't think it's anywhere near the worst Bond films. I think it's, if we put it in the middle kind of area, it is nowhere near as good as Skyfall, I'd say, but it's nowhere near as bad as Spectre or Quantum of Solace. It sits in that middle, and obviously I think that's helped by, you've got returning casts of, is it Léa Seydoux as Madeline Swan, and kind of her relationship with Bond and how that kind of factors into him as a person. I think obviously you got all the returning characters like Naomi Harris as Moneypenny, Ben Whishaw as Q, and then you've got Ralph Fiennes as M. And obviously just give a little bit of praise to Rory Kinnear as Tanner, because I think he's been in it since the beginning, and he's been like kind of in the background. But yeah, I think he's brilliant as well. And I know there was a thing about him being Doctor Who, so let's give him a shot. Let him be Doctor Who. Let me just say, Anna de Armas, is she... I think she's the same girl from Knives Out with obviously Daniel Craig again. She was brilliant in this, but she was not in it for long enough to the point that I don't remember her name. I'm seeing it now on the screen as Paloma. I don't remember that being her name. I don't remember it being said. But yeah, obviously a lot of people had some backlash about Nomi's character, I think her name is, or 007, as she's now taken over the moniker of Bonds, and Lashana Lynch plays her. I don't think there's anything wrong with her role in the film. I think it's kind of good to have that kind of banter that she had with 007, or 007, Commander Bond. He does get that back at some point, by the way, just saying. But yeah, I don't have a problem with her, but I don't think she made any kind of standout points of the film to myself. That's just personal preference, I guess. I feel this film more focused on Daniel Craig and his end tenure as Bond, and obviously this is kind of the final note for him, and obviously hopefully we'll be getting a new Bond. Come on, Henry Cavill, you know you want to do it. Come on, Universal or Eon, whoever the hell is in charge there, just let him do it. He's Geralt of Rivia. You know you want him as it. But anyway, back to Craig. I think compared to some of his previous statements about what he'd rather do than be in this film, I think I'm going to say No Time to Die is a good Bond film, and I think people should go out and enjoy this film. I think they should kind of put the money where their mouths are on this one and actually show some love for the film. Some characters I missed out with there was Jeffrey Wright. I know he's the Watcher now in What If, and obviously he was in Westworld. He was Bernard, and then Rami Malek, who I brought up briefly as Safin or Dr. No, apparently, God knows, I'm not sure anymore. But yeah, those are two another characters that I just want to kind of point out, because everyone in this was good. No one was bad. I can't think of a bad character or actor in this. And that's why I think with Hans Zimmer doing the music, a great cast of characters, Daniel Craig may be looking a bit old for the role, but obviously he used that to an advantage to tell a different Bond story. And I think this is a different Bond story, but obviously it's a culmination to the past 4 films, this being the 5th. And I think because of that, it gives a good story. Not every chapter has been amazing. I'd say there's been, as I said, 2 brilliant chapters, 2 not so great chapters, and then this kind of end point, this swan song for Bond, I think it serves its purpose. I think I agree with a lot of the reviews that I've seen. It's not the best Bond film ever made, but it's also nowhere near the disaster I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. And I would put that squarely on Daniel Craig's shoulders, because I think, as much as the man seems to disdain the role, I think he still plays it brilliantly. And I'm going to say it, Blonde Bond is probably my favourite Bond. I'm going to say maybe more than Sean Connery, probably definitely more than Pierce Brosnan. But if someone said Bond to me now, Daniel Craig is who comes to mind. Maybe not in the future. Maybe it'll be Henry Cavill, but who knows? Come on, do it. Just cast him, please. But yeah, that's my opinion. I think this is well worth a watch. I'd recommend watching either the previous 4 or at least Spectre before going to see this, just so you're caught up to date with the characters and what's going on. But yeah, no. Bond 25, No Time to Die, definitely worth a watch. Ciao for now.